sources of information,
Yeah.
like the CDC and WHO,
Absolutely.
and making sure people know where to turn when they have questions or concerns. So we're not just teaching them how to think, but also giving them the resources to find the right information.
Exactly. It's about empowering people to take control of their own health information and to feel confident in their ability to make informed decisions based on facts, not fear.
And that leads us to another big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
How do we communicate about those incredibly rare cases of contamination without making people panic?
Yeah.
It's like a tightrope walk.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about finding that delicate balance between transparency and reassurance. We need to be upfront about the fact that, yes, contamination has happened,
Yeah.
but also emphasize those extraordinary steps taken to make sure it doesn't happen again.
So it's almost like saying we've learned from the past, and because of those lessons, we're even better protecting people now.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And a big part of that reassurance comes from explaining the rigorous safety protocols that are in place at every stage of the process.
Okay, I'm ready for a deep dive into those protocols.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that every batch of vaccine undergoes all sorts of testing. What exactly are they testing for?
Well, one of the most important tests is for sterility. They literally take samples from each batch and try to grow anything that might be lurking in there. Bacteria, fungi, anything that shouldn't be there.
So it's like putting the vaccine under a microscope and making sure it's perfectly clean. No uninvited guests.
Exactly. And they don't stop there. They also test for potency, which means making sure the vaccine actually contains the right amount of the active ingredients to be effective.
It's amazing to think about the level of detail that goes into this process.
Yeah.
It's not just about slapping a label on a vial and calling it a day.
Not at all. And the testing doesn't end there. There are also systems in place to monitor the safety of vaccines once they're out in the world and being used.
You're talking about vaccine surveillance programs, right? Those systems that track and analyze data about any side effects that people report.
That's right. It's like a massive early warning system, constantly scanning for any signs of a problem.
So they're not just testing the vaccine itself, they're also watching how it's affecting people in the real world.
Exactly.
That's reassuring to know.
Absolutely. And it's not just about catching problems, it's also about continually learning and improving. The data from these surveillance programs is used to refine recommendations, update guidelines,
Right.
and make sure we're always using the safest and most effective vaccines possible.
It sounds incredibly thorough. What are some of the biggest challenges in maintaining this level of scrutiny?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is simply the scale of the operation.
Yeah.
We're talking about billions of doses of vaccines being produced and distributed around the world. Keeping track of all that data and ensuring consistency across different manufacturers and regions is a massive undertaking.
It makes you realize just how many people and resources are dedicated to keeping this system running smoothly. And that brings us back to the idea of trust. It's not just about the science itself, it's about having faith in the people and institutions responsible for upholding these safety standards.
Absolutely. We need to be able to trust that the people making and distributing these vaccines are doing everything possible to ensure their safety and effectiveness, and that trust is earned through transparency, accountability, and a constant commitment to putting people's health and well-being first.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of transparency and media literacy. But what about the role of healthcare providers in all this? They're often the ones having these conversations with patients about vaccines.
You're right. Healthcare providers are on the front lines of this issue, and they play a crucial role in building vaccine confidence. But it's not always an easy task.
What are some of the challenges they face?
Well, for starters, they're often dealing with patients who come in with a lot of misinformation or anxieties they've picked up from various sources. It takes time and patience to address those concerns and to build trust.
I imagine it's also challenging to stay up to date on all the latest research and recommendations.
Absolutely. The science is constantly evolving, and there's a lot of information to keep track of.
So how can we best support healthcare providers in having these conversations about vaccines, especially when it comes to addressing concerns about contamination?
I think one of the most important things is to provide them with the tools and resources they need.
Okay.
That means access to clear and concise information about vaccine safety,
Great.
as well as training on how to have these conversations effectively.
So not just teaching them the science, but also giving them the communication skills to really connect with their patients and build that trust.
Exactly. And it's not just about what they say, it's also about how they say it. Approaching these conversations with empathy and respect can make a world of difference.
You know, this reminds me of that study we discussed earlier about parental attitudes toward clinical trials.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about whether parents were for or against the trial.
Right.
It was about understanding their concerns and values and making sure they felt heard.
That's a great connection. It highlights the fact that people's decisions about vaccines, just like any medical intervention,
Right.
are influenced by a whole range of factors, not just the science itself.
So it's about understanding where people are coming from, what their fears and anxieties are,
Yeah.
and tailoring the conversation to meet their specific needs.
Yeah.
It's about building relationships, not just delivering information.
You've got it. And that brings us to one of the most important things we need to remember. Vaccine hesitancy isn't just about ignorance or stubbornness.
It's about fear.
Exactly. It's about a very human desire to protect ourselves and our loved ones from harm.
And sometimes that fear can be amplified by misinformation, personal experiences, or just a general distrust of authority.
Right, absolutely. So instead of judging or dismissing people's concerns, we need to approach them with compassion and understanding.
It's about recognizing that everyone is coming to this conversation with their own unique set of experiences and beliefs.
Precisely. And that means being willing to listen, to engage in respectful dialogue, and to acknowledge the very real anxieties that people have about vaccines.
It's about building bridges, not walls.
Exactly. And that's how we create a culture where people feel empowered to make informed decisions about their health based on facts, not fear.
This whole deep dive has really highlighted how emotionally charged the conversation around vaccines can be.
It really is.
You know, it's about way more than just the science.
Right.
It's about trust, personal beliefs, and that really deep-seated instinct to protect the people we love.
Yeah, that's so true. And that emotional aspect is especially relevant when we talk about vaccine contamination.
Right.
I mean, even the tiniest possibility of something going wrong can trigger this huge wave of anxiety.
Right. It makes you realize that you can't just throw facts and figures at people and expect them to suddenly feel better.
Exactly.
We need to approach this with empathy and understanding.
Absolutely. And that's where I think a lot of the solutions we've talked about come into play. Transparency, media literacy, building trust in healthcare providers, and sharing those powerful personal stories that connect with people on an emotional level.
So instead of just saying vaccines are safe, end of story, we need to acknowledge those anxieties,
Right.
provide clear information, and empower people to make informed decisions based on evidence, not fear.
Exactly. And that's where you, as the listener, come in. We've explored a ton of information today.
Yeah, we have.
And it's up to you to decide how to use it. What resonated with you?
Right.
What surprised you? What questions are you still thinking about?
That's such a good point. This deep dive isn't just about passively absorbing information. It's about actively engaging with it and using it to shape your own understanding of this really complex issue.
And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. There are so many resources available online and in your community where you can keep learning and exploring.
Absolutely. Organizations like the CDC and the World Health Organization have a ton of information about vaccines. And they're constantly updating their websites with the latest research and recommendations.
Don't underestimate the power of those personal connections. Talk to your doctor, your friends, your family members who might have different perspectives.
Engage in those respectful conversations.
Yeah.
Be willing to listen and learn. And remember that everyone is coming to this topic with their own unique set of experiences and beliefs.
It's through those open and honest dialogues that we can start to bridge the gap between scientific understanding and public perception.
Right.
And ultimately create a world where everyone feels empowered to make informed decisions about their health and the health of their communities.
This deep dive has been quite a journey. We've covered everything from the history of anesthetics to the intricate science of vaccine safety. And we've explored those very human emotions and anxieties that surround this issue.
And at the heart of it all is that relentless pursuit of knowledge, that commitment to ethical practices, and that unwavering dedication to protecting public health.
It's inspiring to see the amount of effort and expertise
It is.
that goes into ensuring the safety and effectiveness of vaccines.
It truly is a testament to human ingenuity and collaboration.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. Given everything we've learned today about historical anxieties, scientific advancements, and the ongoing conversation about vaccines, what role do you want to play in shaping the future of vaccine confidence in your community?
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of vaccine contamination. We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights and spurred further reflection on this important topic.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay well.